Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar. Today we're going to talk about belief. Of course, the belief doesn't mean understanding. If you get it, then you understand it. Certain things you may not understand and you don't see how it's possibly going to work out. But if you have faith, it does work out many times. And therefore I'm going to read a few excerpts from, maybe you could see on this book, I Believe, and says by letters by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And people already, no one's born holy and no one's born, with outstanding of faith. And you go to a leader, a mentor, and that was the Lubavitcher Rebbe, to help people overcome their fears and their anxieties and about so many different things in life, of course. This is called business competition. Greeting and blessings. These are, again, like I say, letters from the Rebbe. It is simple and obvious that a person's income is dependent only on God and on matters related to the person himself. One of the fundamental principles of faith for every Jewish man and woman is the belief that God provides a person with his food and income. Somebody who says that it is within the power of a fellow man to harm his sustenance, despite the fact that God decreed otherwise, is not only contrary to the Jewish faith, but is contrary to the whole idea of divine providence, even as it is understood by non-Jews. Meaning, you understand, if God is running the world, and you say, well, it's a rat race, well, there is competition, of course, but ultimately God is in charge of everything. And you see that many times. I see that, I'm a rabbi, of course, and I'm not a businessman. But again, people come to me for counseling so many times, and you see that people that really maybe aren't the best businessmen, they do make it, and people are good businessmen, they have a good idea, and they fail. So really, ultimately, it doesn't equate totally. You have to do something, like you said, you have to help. You can't just sit at home and wait for God to help you. You got to do what you can, but ultimately, that prosperity and success is in the hand of God. And the next letter is unnecessary worries. In answer to your letter, I am very surprised about what you write, that the difference between your present situation and the situation a year ago is so great that there is no natural explanation for it. And from the tone of your letter, it is clear that you do not refer to the positive side. In my opinion, if you will remember what the medical situation was last year, and you also take into consideration the fact that your wife is now expecting, may everything take place at a good and auspicious time, it is clear that this is beyond the ways of nature, but on the positive side. And even if for the time being the balance in your bank account is going down, this does not affect the present quality of your life, and especially not concerning children, health, or sustenance. According to our sages, meaning the Talmud, if someone has money for what he needs today, and yet he is worried about the future, he's regarded as, quote, one of those who are lacking in faith. This is all the more case with people who are financially comfortable. They have not only enough for today, but for the entire month or even for a few years. And yet they are worried about what will be after many years. And the more the overdraft at the bank is diminished, they worry all the more about what will happen at even later period in the future, and they forget that in actual fact such things are insignificant in comparison with a real improvement in their health and the fulfillment of the wishes of their hearts for the best. This is a great hiding and concealment of the truth. I am sure you understand that it is not my intention to rebuke you, but it is sad and painful to see a Jew as something to be happy about, and not only in spiritual matters, but even in material matters, which means that the joy is not only for your soul, but even for your body, and not only for your godly soul, but even for your animal soul. And instead of being happy, you are worried and distressed about what God, who sustains the entire world with kindness and mercy, will do concerning sustenance for you and your family after a number of years. So in this letter, the Rebbe mentioned the three major things, and they're just not nice things. They were just a major blessings. Really hear this a lot more on high holidays, because that's when you're praying for the entire year. Children, you want your children to be, number one, surely healthy, and to be good children, going in the right way. Health, you need your health, or sustenance, you need sustenance, of course, to get by. You don't want to be poor. No one wants to be poor. And these are the three major blessings. But if you have those, you shouldn't worry about, either the future or someone has more than you. Through faith, hidden goodness is revealed. It was painful for me to be informed by your husband that you feel broken, that it is difficult for you to return to yourself as a result of what occurred. May God protect us from such things. In general, all Jews, both men and women, are believers and the sons of believers, which means that they believe and also understand intellectually that it is God and only God who controls everything that happens in the world. In addition, all Jews believe with perfect faith that God is the ultimate good, the very essence of goodness. I am sure you have also heard the saying that the Rebbe, my revered father-in-law, gave over in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, that every Jewish person, man as well as woman, is as precious to God as an only child in the eyes of his father. In fact, it is more than that, but we have to use such a comparison because we cannot imagine a greater love than that of a parent for an only child. From all this, we can understand that whatever God does is for good. And since God wants it to be good for us not only in spiritual matters, but also in material matters, we can be sure that whatever He does is for our good, not only spiritually, but also materially. As said before, all Jews believe this and also understand it intellectually. However, in certain cases, this remains at a level of faith and understanding, but unfortunately does not affect the feelings of the heart. As a result, such a person might conclude that certain events are a reason to feel broken-hearted or depressed, God forbid. Since the negative feelings are openly revealed in his heart, while God's true intention, which is that the events were for the good, remain hidden in his intellect. It can sometimes happen that the true intention of the event that made a negative impression upon him, which was in fact entirely for the good, stays hidden from the human eye and is not emphasized. If, however, a person works on himself to draw down his faith and understanding also into the emotions of his heart, so that he actually feels that what happened could not have been otherwise, but everything God does is for the good, and this implies even a goodness that we can recognize, and he does this until he actually feels it in his heart, and he sees the good clearly, then God will reward him measure for measure with a reward of the same kind. Namely, God will reveal to everyone, especially to the person himself, the goodness that was hidden within the events, and they will be able to see this goodness even with their ordinary physical eyes. Obviously, it requires a great deal of hard work for a person to accomplish this within himself, but this work is easier for those who grew up with Hasidic parents, and those who married Hasidim, and those who built their families on Hasidic foundations, so that their homes will be filled with the spirit of Hasidus and with Hasidic customs. My wish for you is that very soon God should show you, together with your husband and your son, the ultimate goodness that is present within the various events of your life, a goodness that you have not seen until now, that all of you together should find satisfaction and happiness in both the material and the spiritual aspects of your life. And that's what blessing, and the Rabbi signs his name. Again, just to summarize, because it was a longer letter this time, that everything God does for the good, and you just have to really open up your mind and heart to seeing that there's really goodness in everything that happens. Sometimes it's a little harsh to say that, but not everything is so openly good, but ultimately you see that everything is good. Sometimes they give an example as like a child whose mind is small, doesn't see the bigger picture, is happy with a dime, and you need a whole income. But let's say you take a child for a shot, a vaccination to the doctor. So the kid's crying and kvetching, and oh, I don't want to, why are you doing this to me? And it does hurt, let's face it. But, are you torturing your child? Are you hurting your child? No, ultimately, obviously, what you're doing is for the best. You understand that, so even though you love your child, you wouldn't want to hurt your child. But here you're taking it to a doctor, getting a shot in the arm, and it does hurt. What are you doing to your child? But you understand that everybody understands that ultimately that's for the good. The child doesn't see it yet, but ultimately that is for the good. So certain things that you have to use a perspective on that. Seeing divine providence in every event. Furthermore, and this is the main principle in matters concerning faith, it is the foundation for everything in a person's life. As our sages have ruled, Habakkuk the prophet came and established that all the mitzvahs, commandments, are based upon a single mitzvah. As is written, the righteous person will live by his faith. And all your people are righteous. And even though all Jews are believers and the sons of believers, this belief of the Jewish people has to be precisely in such a manner that it will affect his thought process during the entire day. This means that in every event and matter he should examine and search for the divine providence that is present within these things, despite the fact that it is concealed by a garment of seemingly natural processes. Should also be keenly aware that as long as he has not discovered the point of divine providence, he has not truly understood the matter, and this awareness should cause him to feel a sense of dissatisfaction. When a Jew does think about events in this way, it is a proof that his faith is complete and not merely abstract or partially existent, although it is obvious that also in the latter case he still believes, as said above, since all Jews are believers, sons of believers. This was the clear meaning of our sages when they said that a certain division of the Mishnah that deals with agricultural laws is associated with the word amunah, which means faith. One of the commentaries explains that when a Jewish farmer plants his field, what kind of faith is it? You took a good field, just parenthetically I'm explaining it, that you put the seed in. What do you have to believe? You're doing something very normal. But the commentaries explain what kind of faith it is. When a Jewish farmer plants his field, it is because he believes in God. In other words, even when he is involved in a natural activity such as planting a field, a Jew relies entirely on God and not on the laws of nature. It is only his faith in God that gives him the courage to throw seeds into the earth and to believe that they will eventually sprout. We also see this form from the holy holiday of Purim. A superficial look at the events of the Megillah, meaning the scroll of Esther, could give the impression that the Jewish people were saved in the most natural way as a result of the fact that a Jewish woman, Esther, became the wife of a king who ruled the whole world. And yet our sages regard these events as one of the greatest miracles, to the extent that they established Purim as a special holiday and declared that the blessing Shas and Nisim, who performs miracles, should be recited until this day. Our sages also devoted a special tractate of the Talmud to the holiday of Purim, even though the miracle of Hanukkah did not mirror such a thing. But still, that it was such a great miracle, even though you could say it was very, very natural means. Not to get into the whole story of Purim here, but Queen Esther was Jewish and interceded to the king to stop the evil decree on the Jewish people. But everything in the world has a reason and a meaning. Divine providence means that there is no reason to be afraid. I received your letter in which you write that your state of mind is not what it should be. This is very surprising, since you certainly know that one of the foundations of our belief and our Torah is a simple, unquestioning faith concerning the matter of divine providence, especially as elaborated upon in the teaching of Chassidus, which explain clearly that divine providence applies to the most minute detail of the created world, and all the more so to every detail in the life of a Jew. And since God is watching over you in every detail of your life, together with all the other members of the Jewish people, it is easy to understand intellectually and also clearly stated in the scriptures that God is with me, and therefore I will not be afraid. That's from the Psalms 23. And that God is my shepherd, and therefore I will not lack anything. There is no need to elaborate on something that can be understood with even a little bit of reflection. Occasionally, one of the reasons for an undesirable mood is a weakness in the general state of health. For this reason, you should also seek the opinion of a doctor and follow his advice, for the Torah gives a doctor the permission to heal. I trust that you are careful to follow the well-known custom of studying the daily portions of the Psalms, Tehillim, the Chumash, the Bible, and the Tanya, basic work of Chabad Hasidus. And it would also be proper for you to have your tefillin, your phylacteries checked, if you have not done this within the last 12 months. So again, every person should have faith in God, and the Rebbe concludes with a blessing for good news and all the above, and faith will overcome anxiety. People have anxiety, what's going to be. There'll be a nuclear war, God forbid, and who knows, there'll be a depression, the stock market will fall apart. Who knows and who knows. So don't worry about the future. It's not our business anyway. You have to have faith in God that things will be good, and they will be good. 2 ways to reveal the faith that is within you. Greetings and blessings. In response to what you wrote about simple faith, and the holy Jewish books, and especially in the teachings of Hasidus that explain that every Jewish man and woman has complete simple faith because every Jewish man and woman is called the son of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and every Jewish woman is called the daughter of Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. However, sometimes the evil inclination disturbs the power of thought. It tricks a person into thinking about matters, and occasionally even about matters that are the opposite of faith. In such a situation is explained in the Holy Book of Tanya. As I explained, that's the basic work of Chabad Hasidus, that it is useful to get angry at the animal soul, saying, "You are evil and wicked, detestable, abominable, and disgusting." That's from chapter 29. And in other places that are mentioned in Table of Contents, the end of the Tanya. So it's explained in the Tanya, if you want to get angry at your body for being a shield, if you want to say an interference to your soul. Another method for dealing with the same problem that is even more effective, and I think I've already written to you about it, is to ignore it completely. Whenever the evil inclination comes with its forms of persuasion, you should answer that you are not available right now for such things, because you have to study the Torah, you have to fulfill a mitzvah, commandment, or to pray, etc. The reason why both these tactics are effective, why there is no need to argue directly against heretical thoughts, is that on the deepest level of his soul, a Jew already has perfect faith. The heretical thoughts come from an outer layer of the soul. Together with this, you should set aside a few coins for charity every weekday morning before your prayers. You should carefully follow the well-known custom of studying the daily portions, and we said this from the last letter, the Chumash, the Bible, Tehillim, the Psalms, and Tanya. In addition, and most importantly, you should study diligently and energetically, keeping with the daily program of yeshiva of your Jewish school, for a little bit of light will dispel even a great deal of darkness. Again, when the Rebbe concludes with a blessing, it's a blessing for good news and all of the above. So again, that's a major idea. You have problems, and people dwell on their problems a little too much. What if this, and how do I deal with this, and that way, and the other way? And just almost like the Rebbe is saying, is just don't deal with it. Just push it out of your head and think positive thoughts. That's really the best advice you can have. Everything is the result of divine providence. You ask for a proof from the Torah that God supervises and controls every event in the world, that nothing happens by chance, God forbid. This is easy to understand and requires only a bit of reflection for anyone who believes in God's Torah, where it is written that God created the entire universe, both the heavens and the earth. Although the Gentiles say his glory is upon the heavens, nevertheless, all Jews believe what is written, "I fill the heavens and the earth," says the Lord, and the simple literal meaning of a verse cannot be ignored. Or to quote the words of our master, Rabbi Simon Bar Yochai in Tikkunei Zohar, a very basic Kabbalistic book, There is no place that is devoid of his presence. Therefore, since God is present and he fills every point of space and time, how can anything occur without his supervision and control? All of this is simple to understand. You should also look at what the Alter Rebbe writes in Shar Yuchad V'Yamuna, again, second part of the Tanya, chapter 2. And in the fourth part of Tanya, he talks about this also. Again, that everything is by the hand of God, and if one person says that, I don't believe it, I don't hold by it, I don't know where God is, it's really against faith. You should have faith that everything is determined by God. Faith promotes healing. Blessings and greetings. I was shocked to learn that for several weeks your health has not been as it ought to be. I hope that by the time you receive this letter, your condition will already have improved, and you will be able to inform me of this yourself, since in all matters pertaining to mitzvahs, commandments, it is better to do something yourself than to have another person to do it. And keeping the body healthy and sound is one of the ways in which we serve God. The simple faith that is shared by every Jewish man and woman obligates us to believe that God alone is the master of the entire universe and everything contained within it, and this includes the physical world and also every individual man and woman. And since God is the essence of goodness, he certainly wants to give only goodness and kindness to every man and woman, and good health is one of the most fundamental aspects of this, as explained by the Rambam, meaning the Maimonides. There is also well-known teaching of the Baal Shem Tov regarding the verse, when you see the donkey of your enemy fallen down under its load, its burden, you should surely help him by removing the excessive burden from the animal. Now, what it says about the Rambam, the Maimonides, the Rambam explains that good health is necessary in order to acquire knowledge of God. Hence, when a person engages in physical activities that preserve his health, and he does so in order that he and his children should be able to attain a knowledge of God, then he is actually serving God even while he is involved in these physical activities. And on the second idea of the donkey falling under its load, this from the book of Exodus Shmos. The Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Chassidus, offered the following homiletic interpretation of the verse. When you see that your body, which is your enemy in the sense that it generally resists the wishes of the godly soul, is lazy in serving God, you might think that you should stop helping the body and that instead you should crush the body with afflictions such as fasting in order to eliminate its coarse materiality. This, however, is not the proper way. Instead, you should help the body by controlling it and refining it, but you should not crush it with afflictions. In the context of this letter, the point is that God wants us to be healthy so we can serve him properly. When a person actually feels all this and is not merely intellectual knowledge, his soul would automatically be filled with an inner calm that will bring an immediate improvement to his health and a speedy recovery. May God enable you to send good news about all this, and may it be God's will that this should occur as soon as possible, awaiting good news. So again, a healthy mind brings you in a healthy body, and a good attitude helps out the person to feel good and calm, and that maybe helps his blood pressure go down. Even when you use the power of free will, God is helping you. Blessings and greetings. You write about your state of mind and that it is very difficult for you to make any decisions, and you are frequently troubled by doubts about whether you are doing the right thing. Given the education you received, as you mentioned in your letter, I certainly don't have to emphasize the idea of particular divine providence, which is one of the foundations of our faith and of our Torah, which is a law of life. The meaning of a particular divine providence is, as a simple meaning indicates, that God, who is the creator and ruler of the world, watches over every person and directs not only the general outlines of his life, but even the particular details of everything that happens to him. From this we can understand that we should trust in God, who is the ruler of the world. Since God is the essence of goodness, it follows that everything that happens is also good in the literal sense of the word, And every believer can understand this, even with his intellect. The very first outcome of this is there is no room for worry and no room for confusion. Since even at the very moment when a person is deliberating and trying to decide what to do, God is watching over him, guiding him and helping him, and all those who desire goodness and righteousness. When a person conducts his life according to the instructions of the Torah, this is the right way, and this behavior in itself will help him to continue to manage all his affairs in the best possible way. And with all matters of faith, the above stated point does not require intellectual analysis or complicated proofs involving profound philosophical ideas. For every Jewish man and woman feels within his soul that he truly believes, even at times when he is not thinking about it, even whether it is correct and can be proved intellectually or not. This is in accordance with the declaration of our sages that all Jews are believers and the sons of believers, which means that a Jew's faith is based on his own power of belief and is also an inheritance from his forefathers who were also believers. And any characteristics that are based on both the individual himself and also on what he inherits are extremely powerful in every respect, and this is easy to understand. I hope that these few lines will suffice to stir your thoughts and guide you to the true and inner point within yourself. Deeply inside your soul, you trust completely that God is watching over you. All you need is to bring that thought out from your inner soul and apply it to the matters in your daily life. There is nothing that can withstand the will of a person. However, the way to accomplish this, as said above, is not by intellectually debating and contemplating upon these ideas. Instead, you should rely on your inner feeling that you trust in God. You should not be searching for doubts or creating intellectual problems, which are not problems at all, and which are not really even bothering you. If you will simply shift your attention away from the whole subject, God will definitely help you to become free in an easy way from all the confusion you write about. It would be proper for you to set aside a few pennies of charity before the weekday morning prayer several times a week. The best time to do this would be on Monday and Thursday and on Erev Shabbos, meaning before the Sabbath, though obviously all this should be done without the force of a vow. It's a blessing that you should strengthen your trust in God. You should have good news to report about all of the above. Well, again, what do we learn from this lesson is that even though that a person has free will to do what you want, say, well, then God's not helping me. You just told me I have free will, I can do whatever I want. Then where's God's help? But God is helping a person to do the right thing. Again, it's a famous statement, God helps those who help themselves, but you have to go in the right way. And if you pray to God and you do the right thing and do different commandments, that in turn will help you to carry out God's will. Maybe we have time for one more little letter. These letters are a little bit bigger, but try to get through it. Through trust, hidden goodness will be revealed. For someone like yourself and for your wife, since our sages have said that a man's wife is like his own body, for the members of your family in general, there's certainly no need to elaborate on the idea that God directs the affairs of every Jewish man and woman with his divine providence, and that God is the essence of goodness. For all this is easily understood, that God does not decree anything that is bad, and that everything God does is for the good. Even though it is sometimes difficult for us to discern this with physical eyes and to understand it with human intelligence, nevertheless, this lack of knowledge does not change the reality. Not only that, but when we strengthen ourselves in this pure, simple faith, which is truly present within all Jews, since every Jew is called a believer and the son of believers, then in the language of the Alter Rebbe, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, quote, everything will actually become good, even in a revealed way. According to the sayings of the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe, that we should live with the times, which means that we should live with the weekly Torah reading. All this is especially relevant now, when we are reading from the Torah about our father Abraham. For Abraham was the first believer, and he gave his belief as an inheritance to every Jew, even to the last generations, as it is explained in a number of places. It is also explained that the more a person strengthens his belief in this concept, the more he will receive God's blessings for all that he needs, and particularly that he should merit to see the goodness even with his own physical eyes, with blessing and good news. And a little bit of a footnote in the original that's expressed by a partial quote from Eicha. Eicha is the book of Lamentations, which is a little bit mournful. The simple meaning of the entire verse is this: is it not true that both evil and good come from the mouth of God? Which means that nothing can happen unless it was decreed by God. However, the partial quote only includes the words from the mouth of God, nothing evil will come, which expresses the idea that everything God does is actually for the good. So we're a little bit out of time now. We just want to sum up the idea of faith for all the Jewish people, for any human being. Everybody believes in the idea that there's a one God and He's in charge of everything and He directs all our footsteps. We just have to open our minds and our hearts in order to realize that God is leading us. And again, this is from letters from the Lubavitch Rabbi of blessed memory, letters about faith. Thank you very much.